Hi all. I had an interesting game last night in Hearts League. It was a very short draw. But before I show you that game, I want to show you the prelude to this game. A few weeks ago, I had played Knight F3 in a 30-minute game against Fetty of Enfield Chess Club. It's in this 30-minute cup which Barnet won last year, and we're still doing well this year. We're still in the cup. It's a knockout. Anyway, Fetty had played b5, and the game had gone like this: e4, bishop b7, and I took on b5, knowing that I am, in effect trading a centre pawn for Fetty's flank pawn. But I thought I'd get a bit of a lead in development with knight c3, gaining a tempo on the bishop. I'm going to scrutinise this move heavily in the light of last night's game, because it's not actually that theoretical, and I think there's something very interesting from an element management perspective in relation to the time element of chess. The time element is addressed in this book I've recently acquired called Revolutionize Your Chess, where I think a Russian grandmaster, I'll just get the book title to get his name. Okay, Viktor Moskalenko, Revolutionize Your Chess, adds the time factor. Is the time factor prevalent here after knight c3? That's the question for you, my YouTube viewers. Would you have played knight c3, or would you play something else? Because I think, we can look at the elements of Steinitz, and we can factor in time and say, oh, that's a revolutionary new element. But time is often neglected by authors because sometimes it's completely irrelevant. If the position is closed or quiet, and I think in particular, if there's no potential for structural damage, the time factor can be made totally irrelevant. And I think it's this aspect of the potential for structural damage which is part of the reason why now I think knight c3 is not a very good move. Because if the c-pawn is blocked by the knight, then later d4, c4, what potential for structural damage is there on black's position? That's the question I want you to think about today. This potential for structural damage in relation to the time aspect of chess, in relation to gaining tempi. Okay, now I also want to emphasize, he looks at Steinitz, then looks, and remembers Morphy, but they both had distinct personalities. Morphy, was after quicker results. He played gambits, very aggressive gambits, and that was the period of Romanticism. And Steinitz was more involved with closed positions. So of course, in closed positions, there's more potential for the more structural, long-term static advantages as opposed to the more dynamic advantages. Okay, but the potential for structural damage here, I think, is less with knight c3 than it is retaining the c-pawn to be used for d4 and c4. But let's have a look at this Fetty game to see how that went. Fetty had played bishop b7, and I had played d4. And the game went like this, where I enjoyed, the semi-open e-file pressure. And also, basically here, queen e2, Fetty played d6, and I played rook a d1. The position looks as though there's pressure here, and there's already some potential problems with d5, maybe. And I haven't weakened myself on the king side at all. It's like logical development. And, maybe white is slightly better here. And I played a move d5 now, which exploits this kind of pin, because I've got, rook d5 if needed. If knight d5, knight takes, bishop takes, I've got rook takes d5. So he plays e5, and the game went like this. So this is a 30-minute game, a few weeks back. Bishop takes b5, a takes, and I'm enjoying an advantage now, because the a file, and I've got queen c4, and I've got basically a lock on the queen side, and I played bishop takes f6 to get a nice knight on e4 as well. So this was just a 30-minute game, not to be taken too seriously. h4 to sort of discourage any f5s later from black if he wants to play like bishop g5 and f5. I'm going to try and weaken his king side. But so he plays h5, so it's not going to look good if he plays f5. It would be weakening like g5 even more if he plays like bishop g7 and f5. So mission accomplished there. So now I play c4. So I'm just building up some pressure on the queen side. Rook d1. Now I play b4. So I've got horrible, frets, and we're not too far from the end of the game here. This 30-minute game. c5, and he just loses a piece now. So he takes, then c6. So he's lost a piece because what he played is a disaster. Knight f4. I just played check, and I'm winning his queen. So that was the Fetty game a few weeks ago, and I thought nothing of it. I didn't even look it up on chess games. But if I had, on chess games called the Opening Explorer, if you look up this system with knight f3, b5, e4 takes, there isn't knight c3. It looks like a sensible move, but it isn't. Now let's look at last night's game. And in fact, I'm going to enter it for the first time. I'm not going to pre-enter it. It's only 15 moves. So the first few moves are shared. So bishop b7, bishop takes, bishop e4. And I play this move again, knight c3. Partly because of the Fetty thing. But in the back of my mind, I think I did actually glance at this Revolutionize Your Chess last night. And one of the problems with looking at books before a game is sometimes you take elements out of context, that you don't prefix the element in your mind. Is the element exploitable in your game situation? Because the author has emphasized something, and such an emphasis when you go to play chess is dangerous, because the emphasis by definition is sometimes in a vacuum. If someone told you before a game, oh, time is really important, but then you try and get time, you try and get a tempo, but you don't factor in other things like how open the position is, the potential for structural damage, and other things. And so this vacuum thinking is very dangerous. When you pick up a book, you've got to keep the elements in context. Always try and prefix them in your mind with, is the element exploitable in your current game? Now here, it seems Eddie has had some bad games with bishop b7 in blitz, he told me after the game. So he played, in fact, bishop g6. So a new variation, bishop g6. And I played to try and punish this now. And maybe I should have just played calmly. Let's see what Rybka thinks of this position. I think I got a bit overexcited by this diagonal. So once Rybka loads, I was overexcited by this diagonal, thinking this is a bit of an unusual move, this manoeuvre, because, what if my queen was on f3, if I move the knight to attack the bishop? So, Rybka's actually giving d4 with actually a significant advantage for white. And now maybe, okay, let's follow this. Castle's knight f6. So this is like just sensible stuff, bishop f4. So like in my other game actually, just ignoring that the bishop's, hasn't gone back to b7. Maybe this would have been much better. But there's still this issue in my mind that this bishop, could be locked in if black plays d5 later, and there's no potential for c4 and d5. So that potential for structural damage, I think, is something interesting I want to emphasize in this video today.